Hey, Darlene here with Unmaking a Mess, and thank you so much for tuning in. You can find me on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, my Facebook blog, Unmaking a Mess, as well as my online blog titled the same, Unmaking a Mess. Pretty much because there are many messes that I've been in and I've made, and thanks to the grace of God, I am absolutely still here. And so I feel like God has definitely a purpose for me, and I know He has one for you too. So it's time for me to use my life experiences as a way to help others. I do write mainly from a single mom perspective, but I really hope that I'm reaching a wide audience. So definitely share, subscribe, tell others about it. Leave your comment at the end and just kind of let me know what you think. If there's anything you want to know about me or any questions you might have, I am absolutely an open book for the most part. And I think that's a great way to connect with others. Transparency is definitely my specialty because I have nothing to hide anymore. Not that, I really ever did in the first place because, we all go through a lot of stuff and trials. And I just think it's one of the best ways that we can learn and grow from and mature from and hopefully not make those messes again. So anyway, I wanted to hop on here because I have not recorded anything for a few days now. I know the last time I recorded something, I was kind of in a spot where I wasn't feeling so good and things were getting to me. And to be honest, it's kind of been a roller coaster. And I want to be able to take you guys through that because I don't think there's a better way for me to really show you exactly what a person goes through when, they're trying to handle life on their own. And also suffers from anxiety and occasionally bouts of depression. I'm tons better than I ever have been before, and I'm super thankful to God for that. But like I said, I have not been on here, so I wanted to get something recorded before I go downstairs and spend a little time with my daughter before she goes to bed. This particular reading is going to be from my Facebook blog on Unmaking a Mess, although I am going to put it on my online blog titled the same because it really spoke to what I was feeling the other day. And I feel like it's really important that, I kind of take you through this journey that I'm going through right now. It's not been an easy one. This particular reading is still going to be a little bit evasive, but to be honest with you, I am in the midst of trying to find a job. There's a little bit of a story behind that I just don't want to get into right now, and it's not a bad story by any means. I mean, I need to find a job, and that's just the way it goes. I am super hopeful. But today I am kind of going through a little bit of something because I did not get my anxiety medication filled until today, and I literally missed just one pill. I usually have two pills that I take. One is 75 milligram and the other one is 37 milligram. And I know that may not sound like a lot to you, but for someone like myself that is pretty sensitive to medication, it definitely affects me if I don't have the entire dose, and I could feel it. But I mean, on top of that, between I was probably on the phone making a handful of phone calls that took like a whole total of almost 3 hours, pretty much off and on, as well as taking my daughter back to school and just not feeling a lot of confidence in myself and feeling like, I really need to convince my girls that it's going to be okay. I can't imagine this is easy for them. They know what's going on, and we've lived, a pretty decent life since their dad passed away. You know, thanks to the benefit, the disability benefit that we get from his death. And I know I've said it before, I never would have wanted that if it meant him passing away, but it has been very, very helpful to us as we've gone through this transition. However, it's getting ready to end very soon, and much sooner than I thought. So I'll get into that soon, but I do feel myself really having a lot of emotions today, partially because of the reduced medication, which I do have, so I'll be back on track tonight and tomorrow. My daughter leaving, phone calls today with insurance companies and Social Security and jobs and written work and just reaching out to people. And, you know, that's life. And I want to address something that I had mentioned earlier, and that was, you know, these are the things that, you know, a single parent goes through. And absolutely it is. It is. It's not something that, you know, we need to take on by ourselves. You know, I don't want to be that person that is labeled, well, she brings it on all herself because she refuses help. That's absolutely not true. Sometimes it's really hard for me to ask for help because I feel like there's not a lot that I can give in return. I mean, I, you know, had a wonderful family come over and cut a tree down for me that was really dead, and, you know, I could not thank them enough. And they did it for free. I would have loved to at least, you know, given them some kind of payment, but they were absolutely gracious. And I'm, you know, I'm not afraid to ask for help. I will say this much, that, you know, sometimes when I do put it on Facebook, because I never know exactly who the right person is to ask to, you know, either look at a pipe or figure out, you know, how to resolve this area of my lawn, or, you know, maybe how to talk better, you know, as a mom, or to my girls. I never know. But mostly like the repairs and stuff that I really try hard to do myself. Sometimes it's really hard to put it on, you know, out there. I do because I feel like, hey man, all you can do is ask. And, you know, I know what it's like to help people, and I love helping people. So I know that there's others that like doing that in return, just like, you know, the family that cut down the tree for me. I know there are definitely out there that, you know, they want to help. And so, so I absolutely, you know, ask. But what I was getting at, sometimes it's kind of, I have to be really careful, because there's a few men like on my Facebook that, you know, they want to go out or date. And so sometimes I want to put on there, okay, if somebody has a chainsaw that I can just use for this time, I just need it for an hour. I feel like putting like this disclaimer. Nobody is allowed to respond if they are a single man or someone that I've dated or just went to dinner. I'm not interested in that. And it's kind of like a joke. But on the other hand, I'm also serious, because I just feel like it puts me in the spot. You know what I mean? And anyway, I am really, really kind of trailing off here, but I don't care. This is who I am, and I hope I'm entertaining you, and I hope you have not shut me off yet. So please don't, stick with me here, and I promise I'm going to get to this reading, because it's actually not very long. And so why don't I get to it, because, you know, knowing me, I'll probably have something to say at the end. But anyway, it's great to be transparent. It's great to be me, just kind of like the one that loves to talk and sharing that with you. So, okay, it's 9 minutes. And so I will put stuff on Facebook when I'm writing or something occurs to me. Sometimes it doesn't all go on my blog. I'll put it on Facebook, and I will still write how long it might take, like, you know, a 4-minute read, 3-minute read, or a quick read. So I did that with this, and that's why I want to go ahead and put it on my blog too, because I think it was It really spoke to what I was kind of going through that day and all the things in my mind. This one I titled Triumph, Shack, and a Beetle. And it was about a 4-minute read. So we'll see if it's actually that without me going off on tangents or, digressing. Okay, so this was 4 days ago. Ironically, I've been listening to my old school rock band called Triumph when I'm working in the yard. The song Fight the Good Fight moves me. I encourage you to look it up. I left my dad's house the day after I turned 18. My dad said, once you leave this house, don't come back. I didn't. Listening to Triumph songs as I drove to my boyfriend's parents' house, where we had the house to ourselves for a weekend before they returned from a trip. So after I moved in with him, we were there for a couple of days. We then moved in with a couple that lived not far from us, and they lived in this totally run down house. I can really picture it now, and I think it's even still there. But anyway, it was super rough. Of course, we were 18 years old, and rough is completely an understatement and the beginning of what would become some of my worst days. I was blind to it all, and I think of that couple and I wonder what they're doing now, or if they made it, or even if they're still alive, because drugs were involved. The house that they lived in was absolutely infested with everything. And yeah, even though they knew that their house was not the greatest, I still have to remember the fact that they welcomed us and they gave us a place to stay at a time when we didn't know what to do. Yet, through years of doing things the hard way, Christ kept me going and oftentimes alive. My devotion this morning, or that morning, was encouraging to me as I find myself years later in tough predicaments. So I asked myself, why would God be any different in his guidance over me now than he was when I drove down Southeast 29th Street in my little blue Volkswagen Beetle? He knew what I was in for, and even though my stubbornness led me, Jesus quietly held me. I didn't know he was there until years later, seeing how all along he carried and saved me through so much. Here I am, 40 years later, alive, as well as can be mentally and physically, thanks to God. 4 children and persevering. I sit in my home and I look out at the lake, still remembering very clearly that little shack. That little shack where we lived, sleeping on the floor and eating sometimes often nothing. That little shack is just a mere few miles away from where I live now. Sometimes we need to look back to see how far we've come and who actually was there for us. And why worry now over situations we feel are out of our control when Christ was there for us during the times that we tried to control? I will read the devotion now because it was actually titled, Keep the Faith, Fight the Good Fight. In the book of 2 Timothy, we find Paul writing a letter to Timothy, a fellow missionary. Many Bible scholars believe that this was the last letter Paul wrote before his death, and that he wrote it from a prison cell, a Roman prison cell. Reflecting on his own life and believing that his death was coming soon, Paul writes a powerful message and passage. He says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. 2 Timothy 4:7. Faithful. Paul was faithful to God, and without end, God was faithful to Paul. Shipwrecked, stoned, abandoned by friends, imprisoned, The list of what Paul suffered goes on, but he persevered. He remained steadfast in his devotion to Christ. When you think about your life, what do you want to be able to say at the end? What will you see when you look back? In Paul, we see an example of what it is to cling to faith in Christ. He knew what it was to be dependent on God for everything. He drew strength from God because Paul could not do it without him. In our own lives, we will face moments of doubt or discouragement. Let us hold fast to the truth of God's word, knowing that He is faithful and will never leave us. May it be said of us at the end of our lives that we too fought the good fight, finished the race, and kept the faith. God bless you all. Thank you so much for tuning in and sticking with me here. I just appreciate you guys, and I pray that I'm reaching people in ways that I never could imagine, and that God just continues to help me use His word and my life as He has brought me through it. So please remember that, God is always there. He can be there for you. It may not always make things easier, but it definitely makes them doable. So reach out to Him, pray to Him, shout to Him, ask Him to come into your heart and save you, and just know that if I can get through it, so can you, and we can get through it so much better when we do have Christ by our side. Okay, Unmaking a Mess on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, all of the above, untitled the same online blog, Unmaking a Mess. Reach out to me. I think the questions in here are very similar to what I've asked before, but I would love to hear what you have to say too. When you think about your life, what do you want to be able to say at the end? What will you see when you look back? Please answer those questions. I would really love to hear from you. I just love knowing, what other people's lives are like and where you live, what it's like. I mean, not where you live to be creepy and stuff, just I think it's cool to meet people from other parts of our country. So God bless you all. Take care. I'm definitely going to go downstairs, spend some time with my daughter before she has to go to bed. Okay, talk to you later. God bless you all. Thanks.